Hello guys, and welcome back. Welcome back to a new video about the CANBUS, and specifically about this piece of software called SavvyCAN. I've known about SavvyCAN for a few years now. However, I've struggled to get it working with just using ordinary cheap hardware you can buy from eBay or AliExpress. Recently I figured out how to do that, and in this video I plan to take you through the process of installing SavvyCAN, installing the software required onto a device like this one, which is in this case an ESP32. You can use an Arduino Duo as well, connecting it through a transceiver like this one to directly into the ODB2 port of your car. Now, as you can see, this is currently pumping out lots of CAN, and hopefully in a future video we'll go through how to decipher that and how to interpret the CAN that's coming out. But for the purposes of this video, I just want to take you through the process of getting it working, and then we can take it from there. Now, the one caveat I would say, there's several caveats on this one. The ODB2 port in your car may or may not work with this. It just depends on the age of the car and the make and model. In this case, I'm in a Ford. It's a 2012 Ford Kuga, and it just worked. I just plugged in the ODB2 port and it just worked. So like I say, that may or may not work with your car, it just depends. The other thing is, ESP32 devices are not all the same. It works in this one, it works on several other ones that I have, and it does not work on several others that I have, so that's something you have to bear in mind as well. Hopefully, from what I show you here, you'll learn enough to be able to get the correct ESP32 and get it working on this on your laptop. Now, in total, to get this configured and the software on it to get it to work with SavvyCAN took me approximately 10 minutes, probably less. Obviously, if you're doing this from scratch, you have to install certain bits of software and so on. It'll take you a bit longer, but you really should be able to get this working, the software side of it, in less than an hour, and then it's just a matter of hooking up some wires and away you go. So if that's something you're interested in, please keep watching. I'll head up into the office now and show you how to get it connected.
Okay guys, hopefully you can see that clearly. What we've got here is an old laptop which I wiped and put a fresh clean install of Windows 10 onto. So we might get a few silly nonsense messages coming up from Microsoft, but the reason I did that is so that the experience that I have should hopefully be similar to the experience you have when you actually go to install this. If you haven't had any of the hardware or software previously installed on your computer, you will get error messages and so on. So hopefully we should see the same error messages that you're going to get and work our way through them. So what I've done here is I've just opened up Microsoft Edge. Like I say, this is a clean install of no Chrome, no nothing installed. Everything is just as it was from the installation of Windows 10. Searched for SavvyCAN and we'll click on the link for SavvyCAN. And that takes you into the SavvyCAN website. And if we scroll down, you get various options. Now, SavvyCAN is a piece of software that was written by a chap called Colin Kidder, and he is still active in keeping this software up to date. So it's not perfect, it does crash from time to time, but you have to accept that this is free software given to you, no strings attached. So you have to accept that it's not going to be quite as robust as some of the paid for software. Let's face it, you can't really complain about value for money. Anyway, what we'll do is, in this case, because we're running a Windows 10 machine, we'll install the Windows version of SavvyCAN. So that will now download. Okay, we'll open the file. So this is what you get. It's I think it's a compressed file, but you can see this is what you get if you just click on the download for Windows. If we go here and click on SavvyCAN, it's asking us, yeah, it's a compressed file, so we'll have to extract it all. So we'll do that, do what it says, just extract it in the same folder. And there you go. Go into the folder and we'll run SavvyCAN. Now, what we should get, yeah, is a typical Microsoft. More info, run anyway. Right, this is what I was getting to. We're getting a system error that it cannot proceed because a file is missing. Now, what we can do is go back to Microsoft Edge and see if we can figure out what the problem is. So we'll go to a new page and we'll type in MSVC P1400.dll, and okay, you can see there one of the options is that file is not found. Why is it not found? I'll just click OK to get rid of that. Yeah, you have to do that a few times. How to fix the error code? So that's not the best place to go for it. Find it in Microsoft, probably the best place to go. How you go about doing this is up to yourself, but so we can download this. Right. Now we're getting this from Microsoft itself, so it shouldn't be corrupted. We'll open that file and this should install Microsoft Visual C. Okay, that was successful. So let's come out of that and see if we can go back to running SavvyCAN again. And okay, we'll allow access. This time it's worked. So now we have the SavvyCAN window is up on our desktop. So what we need to do now is to install the software that is required onto one of our devices, which these are ones that I've proven that work. And this is an ESP32. Now this is a 38 pin ESP32 and it is one that has a micro, try and get that to focus, it's a micro USB. This is another one, it is an ESP32 but this time with a USB-C type connector. Now both of these are 38 pin devices and they both work. And I can show you them working in a few minutes. But this is an ESP32 that does not work. And it is a 30 pin. As you can see, it's fewer pins. And for whatever reason, even though it is an ESP32 room, or however you pronounce that, which I think that is also. So even though they're more or less the same in some aspects, this one works, this one does not. Now, the other type of hardware you can use is an Arduino Duo. These things are probably 40 or 50 pounds, $50, something like that to buy. These are maybe $10 to buy, maybe less. But I'm not an expert in these things, but I am told that an Arduino Duo is a better device for this application. Not sure why, but it's up to yourself. You pay your money, you take your choice. Anyway, the other thing about the Arduino Duo you have to be aware of is that if you are going to go this way, make sure you buy a genuine one, because the copies that you can buy from AliExpress or eBay quite often have, it's not that they don't work, they do work, but there's a glitch in the software or in the firmware of them where every time you turn it on, you put the power onto it, you have to push the reset button to make them work. I don't know why, but the genuine ones don't do that, but the copies do, so that's something you have to bear in mind. Anyway, back to getting, I'll take this off again, back to getting the software installed. We'll put the software onto one of the ESP32s and just show you how to do that. What I'm going to do is to plug the lead in to the ESP32 and we'll see what happens, whether this actually reads it or not. Now this is the one that I know will work if it's installed correctly. So let's see how that comes up in the device manager. Okay. Let's see where it is. Is that it? Yep, seems you've seen it all right. So sometimes you plug these devices in and you have to install drivers for them. I wasn't sure if that was going to be the case, but it seems to be okay. So right. Okay, so that seems to be working. So the next step then is to go back to our SavvyCAN software and, where was it again? SavvyCAN Home. Now what we need to do here is to scroll down to this area that talks about GVRET firmware updater. Now, if we were using the Arduino DUI, we would use the GVRET, but because we're using ESP32, we're using ESP32 firmware updater. So what we'll do is we'll click on that and that should download a zipped file. So we'll go to that zip file and we'll try that, see what it says. Right, okay, we'll have to extract it. So let's extract that and let's put it somewhere nice and easy to get to because we want to make it easy to find. We're going to have to go into a DOS prompt to do this. So we'll create a folder. We'll put it into a folder called ESP32. Okay. So that's now going to extract. So on the C drive, we have a folder called ESP32. So what we now have to do is go into command prompt, CMD, and go back into ESP32. And because we're using Windows, we don't need to worry about caps. Windows is not case sensitive. So we're now in the folder. Let's see what's in there. Okay, there's a folder called ESP32 Updater, so we'll need to go into that. CD ESP32 RET underscore updater. Is that right? ESP32 Red Updater. Okay, so we're in the folder. Let's see what's in the directory, and we can see there's a file called updater.bat. So what we can do, and this is incredibly to try and do this without this updater, automatic updater, is a real pain, but the fact we can do it here is phenomenal. So what we'll do is we'll type updater and see what happens. Now we have the ESP32 device is plugged in, so it should see it, and there you go. It is now installing that firmware onto the ESP32 device. And guys, that's it, done. It's as simple as that. So now if we go to our SavvyCAN software, let's just minimize all of these. Alright, where did we put SavvyCAN? Here it is. So now what we have to do is click on connection, open connection window. Now that'll open this other window here. We'll just make it a little bit smaller, easier to see. And we have to add a new device connection. Now in this case, we're going with GV red. Now I know it's ESP32 red, but it's the same thing. So we'll go with GV red, and we're on COM port 3. So we'll create a new connection. And up here, we're actually made it too small. Right, it would have initially come up as not connected, and now it's showing as connected. So that's working. That is all you need to do software wise to get one of these ESP32 devices to work. So what happens if we try to use one that I know will not work? It's one of these ones, if we can see that. This is the 32 pin one. Or sorry, the 30 pin ESP32. Let's see what happens if we try this one. So I'll just disconnect the other one, plug that in. Okay, so now we have the 30 pin ESP32 connected. Let's go back to our command prompt again, and we'll try doing updater again. Now this updater is amazing. It can figure out what the COM port is, all of that, just automatically. So let's see what happens when we try to do it. Okay, we're in the same COM port. It's routing to it, so that's good. Everything seems to be fine. Okay, so that's complete. We now have the software on the 30 pin ESP32. So let's see what happens when we go back to SavvyCAN. We need to go to the connection window. We'll just remove that one, disconnect selected device, add a new device, COM3, it's seeing it. Click on that, it's coming up as not connected, and it should eventually, if it's going to work, come up with connected. But it's not going to, because for some reason this ESP32 device will not work. It might be possible to make it work, but I don't know how to. It's just a whole lot easier to buy the one that does work, the 38 pin version. And what I'll do is I'll put links to these in the comments below so you can see where to get them, and hopefully you'll get the right one first time. What I would suggest is you buy 2 or 3 different makes and models just to be sure. They're so cheap, they're only like $6, so buy 2 or 3. You will want to have a couple of spares anyway, so you may as well get a few different types. Okay guys, so now you've got the software installed on the laptop, and you've got the firmware installed on the ESP32 or the Arduino Duo if you prefer to go that way. You need to get yourself one of these. This is a CAN transceiver. Basically you've got 4 connections that go into the ESP32, and I'll show you what they are. And you've got 2 CAN connections here. Now, a couple of things to be aware of, guys, when it comes to working with CAN. CANBUS is made up of 2 bits of wire that go from one end of the car to the other, and at either end is a 120 ohm resistor that goes across the 2 bits of wire. Now, what that gives you is 2 120 ohm resistors in parallel, and so if you were to put a multimeter across the CANBUS, you should get 60 ohms. You need to be aware that these little CAN transceivers, have a resistor built into them. So if you just connect this directly across your CANBUS, you're going to add a third resistor, a third 120 ohm resistor to your CANBUS, which, while it will probably work, in most cases it will work, is not ideal. You should only have 2 resistors, terminating resistors on the CANBUS. And so if that's the case, you probably need to cut that little resistor down there. Try and show you a bit better if I can. Okay guys, so basically it's this resistor here and this
version of it. There's another version which has a resistor in here somewhere, in which case just get a multimeter, put your leads across the thing and just check. You should see 120 ohms when it's not actually plugged in and turned on. So if you're getting 120 ohms here and you're going to use this in a car situation where the CANBUS is already established, you should by default cut that little resistor out. Just get a pair of small cutters and cut it out. This is the other one I was talking about. It had the resistor here, and I've cut that out because I was using this to connect this one directly to the car. You also need to bear in mind that these devices are 3.3 volts. If you put a 5 volt connection to them, you will probably destroy them. So you've got 3.3 volts coming from your Arduino Duo or your ESP32, ground, and then receive and transmit. So I will now show you how to connect them to the ESP32. Okay, so to make it a little bit easier, I used one of these terminal adapter boards. They're very, very cheap. You can get them for $2 or $3 each, and just allows you to make your connections a little bit more securely than just plugging them onto the pins of the ESP32. So what you've got here is 3.3 volts and ground, and they go to the 3 volt and the ground pins of the transceiver. And then you've got pins 15 and 16 on the ESP32. Now they are the receive and transmit. Let me just double check. Yep, pin 16 is receive and pin 17 is transmit on this little receiver board. So connect those pins to these pins of the transceiver. Connect your CAN to CAN high and CAN low, and away you go. You now have a CAN reader that you can plug into your car. What I did to make my life a little bit easier was I took this as a standard ODB2 cable. It's actually quite an old one because it had a bar going right across the middle, and I had to cut some of that out. But in any case, standard ODB2 cable used to have a 9-pin serial connection on the end. I cut that off, traced the two wires to pins 6 and 14, which I think are over here somewhere, and connected them into the CAN high and CAN low in the transceiver. And that's it. Very, very simple. You now have a CAN sniffer that will work with pretty much any car of a certain age. I'm not sure how well it'll work with more modern cars, but it works with the older ones. Okay guys, so just to give you some idea of the kind of power in this SavvyCAN software and the kind of thing you can do with it, what I've done is I have connected up our little ESP32 that I was showing you earlier. It's just using a couple of Dupont cables connected through to the transceiver and going through CAN wires, that's the twisted wires, and they go up into the back of this instrument pack. Now this is out of a Land Rover Freelander. It's the one that I took out of the car that I'm converting to electric, or converted to electric. If you want to see more about that, look at the previous videos here. And basically what's going on here is, you can see I've just got 12 volts power going to the instrument pack. There's nothing else going to it at the moment, and you can see the RPM is at 0, speed is at 0, and the temperature and ABS lights are on and so on. Forget about the fuel gauge. It is analog. It's not controlled by CAN. You can see if you look at the screen there, we're getting CAN messages are coming from the instrument pack, because even when it's only got power, it still sends out some signals. So what I've got going on here is I have several weeks ago recorded
some of the CAN messages that come from the instrument pack, come from the entire car in fact, when driving, just driving up our lane. It's only going a few miles, maybe 5 or 10 miles per hour, not very fast, but hopefully it'll be enough to show you the kind of power in this this setup. And also, just to let you know, these are some of the ESP32 devices that will work and do work. There's 3 different ones there. One of them I think is a USB-C, a couple of micro USB, and this one is an ESP Uno or Duno, or ESP2 I think it's called, and that works just as well. As you can see, it's got a USB, is that 1 or 2? Can't remember. Anyway, they all work. The Arduino Duo works, and this one that we've got connected up is working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what happens when we start to play back the CAN log that I took of the car as it was driving, and I'll let you watch the instrument pack as I do that. So I'll just go up to play up here. You can't see that very well. Just come up to play, and I'll show you what happens when I click on play. And there you go. And that's showing a CAN log, or I created a CAN log of me driving up the lane. You can see the RPM went up, the speed went up, various warning messages disappeared, and the temperature went to 0. Now I haven't sorted out the temperature yet to get it sort of midway where it should be, but that's on the to-do list. But as you can see, just by playing back the CAN logs from the laptop, we're actually controlling the instrument pack. And if I was to stop that, I'll just click on pause, you see the whole thing stops. So that gives you some idea of the kind of power and the kind of thing you can do with this software. And it has a lot of tools in it for reverse engineering as well. What I'll do is I'll put links in the video description below. Links to where you can get the hardware, links to where you can see other videos from other guys who have done work with this software, and some from Colin Kidder himself, who, although the videos are quite old, they do still give you a lot of information on what you can do with the SavvyCAN software. It is very, very powerful. So hopefully that's been of interest to you. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.